All right. Hey, what's up, everyone? Let me just scroll through here. Try to get myself to the right screen. So, um, on the topic of detox and sweating, this is a little follow up to a recent post I made about how I utilize and what I utilize heat immersion therapy and saunas for as it relates to health targets and health outcomes. And one of the key points that I was trying to make there is that it's for me, it's not about detox. So let's just expand on that a little bit and talk about what we mean by the detox here as it relates to sweating and what we should actually expect from this process as we use some of these strategies to detox in some way, shape, or form. So, and I hope you'll appreciate this AI image that was actually I used a photo of myself for, and that I don't know, it did a little chiseled job. It looks like, so I'm kind of happy about that. But anyway, just having fun with AI. But here we are. Um, all right, so let's get to it. First, what is in our sweat? So if we look this up and we dive into some articles, here are some of the things that we find. This is not an exhaustive list, but you'll see the link there, and I'll post it in the notes as well. But the good news is that all of these metabolites and all of these chemicals are listed in the same units. And this is fantastic because it gives us a sense of the scale. So sodium, on a percentage scale, sodium is by far and away the highest thing that's going to come in our sweat. Obviously, there's the water itself, but we're talking about just the metabolites, the non-water part of our sweat. So this list, I mean, these aren't really, let's say, toxins per se. Urea, it would be considered one. Lactate, not so much. I mean, it is something that does build up in the muscle tissue with exercise and with certain metabolic conditions. But I wanted to just put this in scale because you'll see down at the bottom, the heavy metals are listed in a particular in this scale, and you'll see it seems like a really small number, 0.2. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 5 decimal points below zero, as a relative on the scale of in the low tens to 90 for sodium. So what does that mean? Well, it just means that if we're talking about detoxing as it relates to heavy metals mostly, we could put a few other things in that bucket, things like endocrine disrupting chemicals, forever chemicals, plastic metabolites. They're going to be potentially on a similar scale as the heavy metals in terms of the total amounts that's coming out. So really, this means that the amount of potassium you'll see from this number, which is like 2 to 8 millimoles per liter. Millimoles is just a measure of absolute particles. That it's about 100,000 times more than any of those heavy metals that were listed on that list. And then, so does that mean that it's inconsequential? I mean, not necessarily, but it is about the kind of the scale and the concentration and what happens at particular doses of heavy metals. So heavy metals and plastics, they're always, when they're measured in the blood, they're always on a much lower scale threshold, meaning parts per liter or millimoles per liter is always on a much lower scale in terms of the accepted amount. At the end of the day, it does matter how we get to that situation of sweating. How did we get there? Were we just passively sweating? Were we sitting in a sauna? What were we doing? And there's actually some really interesting research that tells us that the method of sweating matters. And so there's evidence that sweating via moderate to intense exercise induced a significantly higher excretion of some of these heavy metals, nickel, lead, and copper specifically, that were studied in this study linked here. Of note, what they did find were no differences in mercury, I believe. However, this does give us a sense that the method of sweating matters. There's something to be said about the movement and the effort, and how we're mobilizing, like pushing and pulling fluids in and out of the tissues with movement, with intensity, and with exercise, versus passively sitting. So I think that that certainly makes sense. That would jive with me from a physiological standpoint, and that's just interesting to take in. So there's a rationale to work for your sweat. Ultimately, in the end, any removal of heavy metals is beneficial, and so sweating is one of those methods. However, it might not be as powerful as you might expect. What's going to happen is the liver and the kidneys are going to be doing the prime work, as well as excretion, right? With bowel movements through the urine, we're going to be excreting a tremendously higher amount of many of these metabolites in that fashion. So don't put all of your detox eggs in one basket. This is certainly one tool, but this is just kind of a quick synopsis of what to picture as you go into some of your detox strategy, methodology. What are you using these treatments or these modalities, heat immersion, cold immersion? What are you using them for, as it relates to detox, if at all? All right. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it came out to be a little bit longer than I expected, but anyway, please take a moment to follow along on YouTube and on Instagram. You'll see here at Dr. Gordon Kogan on Instagram and at Dr. Gordon Kogan on YouTube. But anyway, I hope all is well out there, and we'll talk soon.